On this edition of Gameball College Kickoff, we're going to recap the top four matchups that went down in week 2 of the college football season. Plus, in our second segment, we're going to talk about which under-the-radar team has actually been surprisingly on the rise. Also, even though we're only 2 weeks into the college football season, which team is already ready to push that panic button? And, of course, coming at you in the third segment, the top four matchups of the college football season heading into week 3. It's going down, as always, right here. Gameball College Kickoff begins now. What's happening, everyone? Welcome to Gameball College Kickoff for the football season never ends. I'm Marcus Young, Genius Jenkins.
It's your boy, Mike O'Reilly.
And always, we're going to hold it down for our brother Luke Harden. So shout out to Luke. Of course, we're going to hold you down, man. You already know we got you as always, brother. So we're going to start this off with the recap of the top four matchups in week 2 of the college football season. Starting with Texas A&M and Clemson. Clemson, of course, doing what they do. And coming out in an impressive win over Texas A&M by a score of 24-10. Nebraska and Colorado, 34-31. The Buffaloes would win over the Cornhuskers. North Carolina, Miami, unfortunately, dropping their second close matchup on top of that in a row. We know last week they fell slightly short to Florida as well. And we'll also elaborate on the game here in just a second, as well as LSU and Texas. For me, this might be a candidate for me as one of the top 10 games of the year, in my opinion. We'll talk about that, but we're going to reroute and back it up and go to Miami and North Carolina. Mike, how did the Tar Heels overcome the Hurricanes?
It's Mac Brown. Ever since Mac Brown came back to North Carolina for his second tenure there, it's just like there's something magical there going on that we don't know about. First, they get a win against South Carolina, a very good team. Mm-hmm. Then you get a win against Miami, another good team. So that is a good 2-0 start so far. Things could get a little bit better offensively and defensively. They were struggling here and there, but they kept fighting. They found a way to win. Since when do you hear North Carolina football starting off 2-0? When's the last time North Carolina football squad started 2-0? Maybe Mac Brown's first tenure there? I don't know. You usually hear about basketball, but football, it's a beautiful thing to see in North Carolina. And I'm just happy for the players and happy for Coach Mac Brown. Taking that time off away from football doesn't seem like he did not miss a beat at all. And I think for Miami, losing another game, especially conference game, 28-25, and Miami's got to fix it here. It's just they're so young offensively, and the offensive line, it's going to take time for them to gel together. They already got their quarterback, but if the offensive line figure out and start playing better, you start seeing more consistency in the offensive line and bigger plays coming out of that offensive unit. The defense is there. It's just the offense is so young, starting 3 true freshmen offensive line. Then you have a redshirt freshman at the quarterback. So they're going to be there for years to come. And this is Manny Diaz's first-year head coaching job with the Miami Hurricanes. So it's going to take them some time. But over that, Miami will be back to where it is. But it just got to take some time. And North Carolina, I don't know how Mac Brown's doing, wherever he's sprinkling that magic there, but so far they're 2-0, and they could really be a team to be reckoned with in the ACC conference.
Like you mentioned, 3 true freshmen starting for Miami, and the thing is, it's just these 2 losses for them, 2 big challenges for them were close. So it's not like it was a decisive win by their opponent. They were right there in the end, and unfortunately, they just didn't do enough of those little things, I guess, that are emphasized in order for them to squeak this one out. But like you said, North Carolina 2-0. We'll see if they'll continue that trend heading into this weekend. Moving on, like we were talking about, LSU versus Texas. Obviously, LSU would win 45-38 over the Longhorns. One of my top 10 games, and this was one of those. If you're a football fan, you had to have been excited about this one. You want to talk about Joe Burrow of Texas, or excuse me, LSU, Sam Ellinger, who we bragged about a lot last season. Both these quarterbacks. It was 3-0 at the end of the first quarter, and it seemed like after that it was nothing but a shootout after that. Both these quarterbacks, 400 plus passing yards, throwing for 4 touchdowns and 31 completions, respectively. How was LSU able to come out with a big win against Texas?
Well, big plays from LSU offensively. Ever since the slugfest in the first quarter, they was able to find a rhythm and establish it and keep going for there and never look back. Both defenses gave up a lot of yards and a lot of points, but LSU defense was able to make more plays against the Texas offense that was able them to win this game. But this quarterback in the second year in the system is just like, it's nothing new to him, and he was out there just carving them up left and right and just making things happen with his feet and with his arm as well. Now we can start to say that LSU could be a threat to Alabama because now they got a good offense to go along with the defense. But defensively in the second half, they got to finish better. They this game could have gone to overtime. You gave up 38 points. That's a lot. I mean, it was a shootout, but this is not your typical LSU defense that gives up a lot of points. So if they could fix their corrections on defense and go back to the drawing board and able to finish games, this LSU team, they can do some things that they could possibly be up there, maybe the SEC championship conversation or the 14 playoff. Now, for Texas, this is a heartbreaking loss, but I wouldn't be discouraged because you was battling out with LSU.
Absolutely.
Especially Ellinger. Man, he was just something else. Running, passing, it didn't matter. He kept this team in the game. And this is why I picked Texas to win the Big 12, because of that. And their defense got a lot better. Yes, they gave up a lot of points, but their defense is going to cause problems in the Big 12 going forward. Now, they had some things to correct defensively, and they had to get it to adjust. Once they do that, Texas is for real.
All right, Texas once again falling short. One of the best games of the year. No, it's only going into week 3, but definitely an outstanding game. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about which under-the-radar team is surprisingly on the rise, and on the flip side, which team is ready to hit the panic button. Stick around as Gameball calls kickoff returns in a moment. What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to Gameball Calls Kickoff, where the football season never ends. Now, in this second segment, the first thing we're going to talk about is which under-the-radar team to you, Mike, is surprisingly on the rise.
Well, as we talked about the first segment, you can't forget about North Carolina. Even though it might be not the games that they're not paying attention to, not getting looked at. But North Carolina beat two good teams. They beat an SEC team, and they beat a very good Miami talented team. Now, the team that is surprisingly under the radar on the rise is Maryland, because the first game they put 70 points and destroyed their opponent, and did the same thing against Syracuse, a very good Syracuse team. They put up 60 points at home. And that new coach they got, man, that swagger, culture change and all that, and he comes from the Nick Saban tree. That also helps out. So I say Maryland is definitely a surprising team on the rise that teams need to start paying attention to, especially going into Big Ten regular season, because you can't overlook Maryland at all. And defensively, they was just going after it. I like their edge rushers and their way their secondary play, aggressive, physical. Offensively, they was just being physical, running the ball, get some completions in the pass game, taking time off the clock. That could be a factor as well. And they could upset a couple of teams in the Big Ten if the top teams don't be careful in overlooking Maryland. Maryland is the team that everybody should be paying attention to, not just ranking, soon to be ranking wise or ranking, but in conference as well.
I would agree. North Carolina and Maryland, so definitely make sure you keep those two teams on the radar. Now, on the other hand, Mike, we got to ask, which team is ready to hit the panic button?
Well, there's teams that really need to hit the panic button, but I'm going to say the team that definitely is on the verge of overloading beyond the panic button is Tennessee. You lost week 1 opener to Georgia State, I think, at home. Then you dropped another ball against BYU in 2 overtimes at home. You lost 2 players that transferred, and you lost recruits. That does not look good for you at all. So if I'm Tennessee, even though it's week 2, I'm hitting the panic button. And don't be surprised if this continues to happen. He might lose his job. He might not have a job after all, because he was supposed to come from the Nick Saban tree, and you dropped the ball twice. One team that you're supposed to win at home, and another team that you're supposed to win at home. So you're 0-2. Everybody is just like the article in the paper, just looking at you like this. What the hell is wrong with Tennessee? That's what's going on. So Tennessee, panic button mode.
All right. And that's going to conclude our second segment. And, of course, coming at you in our third segment, we're going to talk about the top 4 matchups to look out for in week 3 of the college football season. You don't want to miss that, of course, with our predictions as well. Stick around. Gameball College Kickoff is just getting started.
Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned.
What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to Gameball College Kickoff, where the football season never ends. Now, in our third and final segment, we're going to talk about the top 4 matchups for everyone to look out for heading into this weekend, starting with Arizona State and Michigan State. Mike, why did you pick this matchup?
Well, this was Luke's matchup that he picked. It's a repeat of last year. It came down to the wire. Arizona State eventually got an upset win over Michigan State at home, but they're going to East Lansing to Michigan State, so it's going to be something different. But it's going to come down to which team's defense is going to make the big plays. Offensively, if they can put up points, but it's going to come down to the defense. Which team defense is going to stop the opposing offense and give their offense a chance to score either a field goal or a touchdown to win those games? So I say those are the keys for there. It was Herm's coming out party last year as the first-year head coach of Arizona State. So can Herm Edwards have that repeat again as a head coach and get the win on the road in a very hostile environment? So I'm looking at Michigan State's defense versus Arizona State's offense. They lost a big-time receiver in the draft, so we'll have to see how the receiver is going to play out against that secondary. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
All right, Arizona State, Michigan State. The in-state rivalry is what we're going to talk about with the second matchup. Iowa taking on Iowa State. Mike, what do you like about this one?
Big 10 versus Big 12. The battle in Iowa. Bragging rights for the whole year. This game is always coming close to the wire. Either the end of the regulation or 2-3 overtimes. But it's going to be a good matchup. But it's going to come down to, again, defensively. Which team defense is going to make enough plays to stop the other opposing offense is going to win this game? And can they create turnovers? And which offense is going to play mistake-free, disciplined football, control the clock, able to win this game? So I'm looking forward to that matchup and can't wait to see it. So it's going to come out to that. Which team defense is going to make the play and which offense is going to be mistake-free and disciplined?
All right, Iowa and Iowa State, in-state rivalry. Man, I agree with you. That matchup is always not disappointing at all. This one actually might be, I don't know, this one actually might be my favorite out of these four so far, and that is Florida versus Kentucky. What do you, actually, let me rephrase that. How would you break down this matchup?
Well, last year, if I'm not mistaken, Kentucky upset Florida in Florida. And Florida is looking for payback on the road. And the thing that hurts Kentucky, they lost their quarterback to an injury for the season. That was reported yesterday. And how would Kentucky offense be life without their starting quarterback against a very stingy, good, talented Florida defense? You're going against that pass rush that does not allow a lot of time for the other offenses. We saw that against Miami. We saw that against the other opponent they destroyed. So can Kentucky offense able to stop Florida's defense without their starting quarterback? And how is Kentucky defense going to be able to slow down Florida offense? That's the question. So the main matchup I'm looking for to watch is Florida defense versus Kentucky's offense without their starting quarterback who went down with the injury. If they can find a way to be consistent, get the running game going, be physical, take time off the clock, get some completions going in the passing game, some play action here and there. Nothing too fancy, just keep it simple. Kentucky has to keep it simple offensively, or it could get ugly for them.
All right, Florida and Kentucky. And now take us to our fourth and final matchup to look out for, and that is number 1 Clemson taking on Syracuse. Mike, what do you like about this one?
Man, every time Clemson plays Syracuse, Syracuse gives Clemson a game. And one period of time, they did upset them at home against Clemson. And could this be a trap game for Clemson? And Syracuse got embarrassed on the road against Maryland last week and giving up 60 points. I'm just like, that was a disgusting performance. I know this coach is sick to his stomach. If I'm the coach, I am having my players running laps, and we're going starting all over from the drawing board and fix the things that they need to fix offensively and defensively, because they look terrible and pathetic on the road in that loss against Maryland. But Clemson, they can't take this Syracuse too lightly. they have to take it serious because you're going to a very hostile environment, prime time game of the evening, and we all know that Clemson has struggled on the road against Syracuse. That's the only team that's given them problems in the recent years. But being that the spotlight in the big games in Syracuse, how will the players handle that? Will there be a lot of emotions going on, this and that? We don't know. This is their first big-time game in Syracuse in a long time. So how would that factor? So can Syracuse bounce back offensively and defensively to win this game, get the upset win at home against Clemson? That is going to be the key factor if Syracuse wins this game. If not, Clemson is going to ramrod you at your house and blow you out. So you have to fix the mistakes that you made on the road, or this could be another repeat for Syracuse.
All right, number one, Clemson taking on Syracuse. Are they going to handle business like they normally have, or could this be that trap game? We're going to find out this weekend. And that's going to take us to our predictions part of this episode, starting with Arizona State and Michigan State. Who do you and Brother Luke got going on?
Luke has Michigan State. I was leaning towards Arizona State, but I'm going to say Sparty's at home in a close one. I'm going to say Sparty's get it done, 17-14 win at home.
I agree with you. And I was actually kind of conflicted with this one as well when I looked at it. But I think home field advantage, I think it's going to be key for Michigan State in this one. Similar score, I had 24-14. The Spartans roll on against Michigan State.
But I wouldn't be surprised if Arizona State gets a win on the road against Michigan State. I would be surprised, but it's just that very hostile environment. How would the players act in a very hostile environment on the road, especially traveling cross country from Arizona to Michigan? So that could play a factor.
I agree with that 100%. All right, the Spartans. But once again, don't sleep on Arizona State. We all three picked Michigan State, but don't sleep on the Sun Devils. Iowa versus Iowa State. Who you got?
I got Iowa in a dogfight. It's going to come down to the end. But I think Iowa offensively were able to control the clock down the stretch, run time out the clock, kick a winning field goal, and their defense comes up big to stop Iowa State offense. Now, Iowa State has struggled. They barely survived in week one against Northern Iowa. So I'm going to go with Iowa against Iowa State. I just don't trust Iowa State, especially their defense. It's been inconsistent. They've been hit and miss and this and that. So I'm going to go Iowa to win a close one. I'm going to say 31-28 Iowa over Iowa State. And Luke has Iowa winning.
I agree with both of you guys. I liked Iowa when I saw this matchup as well. I just thought the defense, and tell me if I'm wrong, I also thought this team was a lot more physical than Iowa State. And that was another thing that I felt like was kind of a little bit of a factor in that one as well. I had them winning 27-17. Florida and Kentucky, who y'all got on that one?
I was going to go with Kentucky, but since they lost their quarterback for the season, I'm going to go with the Florida Gators to get their revenge on the road. That pass rush is going to be too much. We all seen what that pass rush. We all saw Florida's front seven, what they can do offensively. If they can be consistent and play mistake-free, they could put up points in it quickly. But I just don't see Kentucky doing enough to beat Florida. So I like Florida winning this matchup on the road. I'm going to say Florida wins 31-17, and Luke picks Florida to win as well.
Yeah, whenever you lose your starting quarterback, that chemistry, we've seen it on both levels. That does change the dynamics of the offense. I'm going to pick Florida as well in that one. I'm going to say 28-14 in that matchup. Number one, Clemson, Syracuse. You think it's a trap game, or you think they're going to handle business?
Luke's picked Clemson to win. I picked Syracuse to win in the first half. First half.
All right.
First half, the Syracuse win the first half. The Clemson finds a way
Gotcha.
to win
Okay.
in the second half to win the game. So I kind of had you fooled there.
You did.
Yeah. So I'm going to say it's going to be a very close slugfest because Syracuse always gives Clemson their test. They match up well, and especially with a big-time game at home, prime time. Syracuse is going to be ready, but I just think that last week's loss is going to carry a little bit over it against Clemson. And Clemson finds the way in the second half with Trevor Lawrence leading the way offensively and defensively, with Clint Vanderbolts, the best defensive coordinator in the game, finds the way to shut down the Syracuse offense. So I'm going to say Clemson wins on the road, score of, I'm going to say 35-20.
All right, fair enough. I like Clemson in this one as well. This team doesn't like they have missed a beat since last season's championship run. I have them winning. I got them winning 35. I'm going to say 35-14 in this one. Clemson rolling on against Syracuse. And that's going to do it for this episode of Gameball College Kickoff. Social media. Also, by the way, speaking of social media, with the top 4 matchups, one thing that we'd like for you guys to do, send us your picks. Let us know what you think about these matchups as well. But rolling into social media, you can find me on Facebook under Marcus Jovel ENC Jenkins, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, at Jovel ENT. That's capital J, lowercase OVELLEENT, all one word.
Social media, Facebook, Twitter, Gmail, Instagram, YouTube, my right to your left, all on this side right here. You can follow on the social media part. Just follow where it says to follow. It says to go my right to your left, vice versa. And you can't forget our other brother who couldn't make the trip today, but we still got his back. Luke. Follow him on Facebook, Instagram as Luke Harnett, and on Twitter as Luke Harnett2. I'm Michael Riley.
I'm Marcus Young Genius Jenkins.
This is Gameball College Kickoff, where the football season never ends. Peace. We are out, and see you next time.